Hammeh here. In this video, as always, we'll be rounding up some interesting Overwatch lore and gameplay news from the last few days that may have slipped under your radar. There's been a few new additions to the hero gallery on PTR in terms of lore, teasers and story, so we'll quickly run through those, as well as a roundup of Overwatch news from the last few days that you might have missed. Time codes in the description below to skip, and thanks for your patience for a quiet few days from me last week on the video front. I finally moved into a new place to live, so expect to return to all of the longer, more edited videos that you enjoy, as well as the odd bit of news here and there from now on. Okay, so first things first, there have been a few new changes to the PTR hero galleries. Now, to quickly clarify, since my last video, I focused in that one on new lore facts that we learned rather than going through every single one in detail. So you'll be able to see these in two places. Number one is if you jump into a hero, it's their initial bio, as you can see here in the bottom right. I didn't go through all of these in my last video because, quite frankly, we know the information in these. If you haven't seen it before, go and have a look at the Play Overwatch website in the hero story section. All of these are summarised from there. That's thing number one. Number two, the skin bios, if you actually jump into the skins, do have some new lore in some places. In other places, they're things that we know already, or if you've been tuning into my videos, you'll have heard it in past videos. You might not know some of this, so do go and have a look through them all when they're out, or have a look at my past video for more info. Okay, let's have a look at the ones new in the gallery since last patch. They're not all new lore, but it's nice to see how they're presented. Number one, Soldier 76, well, he had a few problems in that he had a description which was a lot more suited to his Strike Commander Morrison skin on Daredevil 76. That's now been put in the right place, telling us the information in the backstory of Morrison. There has also been a little addition to Night Ops 76 and also Commando 76. Talking about Jack Morrison serving in the American Armed Forces to defend his country before, of course, he was called up, as it were, or selected to apply for the Soldier Enhancement Program that we know that him and Gabriel Reyes, later to become Reaper, both met each other from and served in during the Omnic Crisis before they jumped into Overwatch. So that's pretty cool. I mean, maybe that makes both Night Ops 76 and Commando 76 skins maybe a little bit more towards canon, perhaps, who knows, although they have the 76 on the shoulder still. However, of course, we do know that his hair and his face are still very much old 76, not the Strike Commander Morrison that we know he was, so presumably he must have looked like this at the time. Okay, next up in stuff that's been added, we do have Reaper, who has a couple of cool ones. Firstly, we've got Nevermore. That's just Quoth the Raven Nevermore. Now, if you don't know it, that's a quote from a poem over 150 years old by Edgar Allan Poe about a talking raven's mysterious visit to a distraught lover, tracing the man's slow fall into madness. Now, that's been inspired by and referenced in pop culture all over the place. The Simpsons, Star Trek, Pinky and the Brain, anything with supernatural or gothic horror elements. Stephen King as an author, Neil Gaiman, so many authors, comic books and films. I'm sure you've heard a reference to The Raven the poem, or Quoth the Raven Nevermore. And of course, Reaper's raveny skin here is something I think we'll have to cover in a skin lore and culture video in that series in future. Blackwatch Reyes also gets a little bit of bio lore. Of course, this is stuff we know already. He was the leader of the original Overwatch strike team and later commanded Blackwatch. Now, if you wonder where that's from, it's actually from blogs on the Play Overwatch website. And I do have a video on this channel called Where to Find Overwatch's Lore. Go and have a look at the blogs on the Play Overwatch website. You can find a chunk of lore there that you might not see elsewhere. I try and signpost it in that video. Next up, we do have Farah. She's got a few little interesting new bits in there. Some of this is known lore to us. Obviously, as I said in my old video, I'd love to know Thunderbird and Rain Dancer. I'll talk about those in skin lore for sure. There's some really cool references there. But the two bits she's gone up to are Security Chief. So of course we know from her bio she joined Helix Security as one of their chief officers. Now Helix Security, of course, were at Watchpoint Grand Mesa in the US in charge of protecting an old Overwatch facility that Soldier 76 got his prototype rifle from. So they clearly weren't too good in keeping him out of there. Farah, of course, was working at the Temple of Anubis, or the Anubis AI facility, and that's why we have a little note on her Anubis skin that's been added. Now, this description here of the lore that you see is pretty much the events of her comic mission statement. If you haven't read that, I really recommend you go check it out. Go and have a look on Madefire. They do animated versions with music and sound, which are really cool. comic.playoverwatch.com, or read my comic analysis video that you can find linked in the description as well. Last but not least, there's a little addition to Mercy's skin. Now, some of this is kind of lore that I think we've kind of speculated at. It's nice to have it confirmed, and also I just think it gives some nice interesting thoughts or background to what we might learn about Mercy's story in future. So this is her skin, Eidgenossin, and of course it refers to the red and white colours as well as the emblem of Switzerland from the Summer Games in 2016. So her lore says that she, in this skin, finished her education, including her MD and PhD in Switzerland, and then most of this we know from Mercy's bio. But why did I find the MD and PhD bit interesting? Well, it's partially to do with a bit more background for Mercy and also the concept of this MD-PhD program for physician scientists, where the people who study it spend perhaps a bit more time in research and a bit less time in clinical practice. There are pre-doctoral and postdoctoral pieces, so before getting that MD or doctor certification, an MD-PhD can be anything from 7 to 10 years of training. The medical training, the master's training and the PhD training. Depending on the country you're studying it in, you have to do all of the doctor studies and clinical rotations, then the PhD and research part. Insanely competitive courses and also sometimes not funded. So why is this all interesting with regards to Mercy's backstory? Well, coming back to this particular image from Anna's origin trailer, where Mercy has been mentioned now as being visiting from university, I like this as potential background along with the MD-PhD. Mercy's age and history has been gradually filled out since Overwatch's release, including a tweak to her age quite some time ago, making her a bit older. So the fact that she's had to do this much study, as we know doctoral programs take quite a long time before going into being as head of surgery, is pretty interesting to me. Total headcanon, perhaps Mercy somehow met the Overwatch folks and got sponsored for further studies. Or, of course, she's also an orphan, sadly. Her parents were taken by war, so I'd imagine there'd be funding elsewhere too. Some MD-PhD programs are very well funded, with healthcare insurance in the US in particular, and other things like that. So although Mercy spent all this time studying in Switzerland, it's interesting to know that this additional plot to her background with the MD and PhD, and this MD-PhD, which can take quite a long time, gives her more time to finish her education, makes her a bit older before she takes on her responsibilities both in the Swiss hospital and Overwatch. Final fun fact, Eidgenossin is a pretty cool name. It means Swiss citizen apparently in Swiss German, makes sense with the colouring and Summer Games theme, but it also has another historical meaning of apparently Oath Brothers. This Eidgenossin name was the name of a group of local fighting forces in the 1300s who became known as pretty ferocious shock troops. In some pre-Switzerland fights between local confederated states in the area, who were sort of protecting themselves against Austria, less well-equipped and organised troops killed over 1,500 opposing troops as they prepared to invade through a pass in the Battle of Morgarten. Setting a trap, these fighters attacked with rocks, logs and halberds. Now, both from this battle and apparently throughout the decade, and indeed century, the Swiss learned that an unarmoured man with a 7-foot halberd, that's about 2 meters long, could dispatch an armoured man-at-arms. Some halberds would be swapped with and involved into, of course, the pike, an 18-foot spear with a small piercing head. If you're a less well-armed and perhaps less well-trained force, these weapons could make the difference in fighting against men-at-arms and knights, people with perhaps more training and better equipment. This was a pretty big deal at the time, no longer outreached by the lance of a knight and displaying far greater cohesion than any knightly army. The Swiss soon showed that they could defeat armoured men-at-arms, mounted or dismounted, given anything like even numbers. With the creation of the pike square tactical formation in the 1400s, 100 years or so later, the Swiss were actually military innovators. They provided this model for the modern infantry regiment, and these pike and square tactics would prevail through history for hundreds of years to come, through the invention of gunpowder up until the Battle of Waterloo in the 1800s. As long as cavalry and people in armour were relevant, so pikes and halberds would be as well. Pretty interesting stuff. A little bit of Swiss military history for you behind Mercy's Eidgenossin skin, but also some cool extra information behind the naming. It's got a heroic, you could say, military heritage as well. Okay, on with the news. There's the few little roundups of new bits of skin lore and otherwise that have come to the PTR client. Now, a little bit more on other Overwatch news over the last few days. First things first, there might be a visual upgrade incoming to King's Row. It's on the PTR, you might have seen it shared over the last day or two. On the official forums, Dave Adams, one of the devs, shared that London was actually one of the earliest maps, and some of the tech that was used to build King's Row has evolved since it was created. These changes that you can see in some of these pans that I'm doing have been done to bring it in line with the newer maps and make it easier to make updates and changes. However, some people have fed back, I don't know if you can see it here, that it feels a lot brighter than the old one. Some people don't like the change in feel. Now, I can see why this might have been done. Some bits of King's Row, possibly for gameplay reasons, are a little bit dark and gloomy, perhaps a little bit unintentionally so when it comes to you trying to see where people are coming from. Also, of course, let's not forget that King's Row had an animated short on it in Alive, and there was a lot of work done by the cinematic team that Blizzard have mentioned at points could be ported back into the game just to make the map look a little bit better. That being said, Blizzard have seen this feedback and they are taking a look. What do you think about this King's Row? Do you think the lighter kind of theme for it, the differences in lighting make it better, or perhaps a bit less atmospheric? Do let me know. It's been just underneath a week since Orisa made her way to live, and don't forget that she is coming to competitive soon. the week that she was going to be in quick play only expires as of tomorrow, so maybe we'll see her in the Tuesday patch. Now, a couple of other things for Orisa. Well, her voice line volume will be getting increased in the next patch. Some people have fed back it's a little bit too quiet. The dev team posted on the official forums that is going to be increased. And a couple of thoughts on Orisa. Her headshots and her huge crit box can make her pretty vulnerable. She is great at putting barriers down to advance to as a team. You probably don't want to use Orisa's barrier too much to shield where you are. She's a pivoting tank like Reinhardt, but not a frontliner in the same way as him. Use her with other tanks to move from space to space, advance your team towards her shield rather than protecting where you are most of the time, I think. Great suppressing fire, her halt, boop and pull are pretty awesome. Try and pull people out from around corners when you've got a shield out and throw down that big suppressing fire to help your team advance. Really going to be fun. I'm going to be interested to see what she does to the meta. Main tank alone she is not, but a useful other tank kind of in the line of Diva as to what other utility she can bring to a team. How are you enjoying Orisa so far? Do let me know in the comments below. Now, apparently a slow-mo mode could be on the way to Overwatch's Arcade. In response to a couple of threads on the official forums, Jeff Kaplan actually mentioned that the engine for Overwatch can timescale. It's used internally frequently by the team, and they're going to look into whether they can make it a custom game mode, so that could be another fun way to play Overwatch. Also, another fun fact was shared. Lucio's first ult used to be a total timescale for everyone in the match apart from Lucio. So by this, I'm guessing that they could either let him slow down time, speed up time, or something like that. I wonder how that worked. Now, I can see where that was changed. One, it sounds like a very powerful ability. I'm not sure how you'd keep that balanced. And two, it also sounds like something that probably, just in terms of time manipulation, would suit Tracer a bit more as a character. It's pretty crazy. I think we can file that along with the various ults that Bastion had, including the artillery barrage he apparently used to have, and the remote mine, amongst other things, as cool and crazy ult ideas that maybe should stay where they are in the imagination rather than coming into the game. Good news for you people who are hungry for more skins. Jeff actually said on the boards recently that it's going to be a great year for skins in response to various threads talking about different skins and what people would like to see. Now, I know a lot of you McCree, Hanzo and Genji fans have mentioned that you feel a little bit hard done by in recent events. Well, a McCree skin has been confirmed as being incoming not too long ago by Michael Chu in a post who said it might be due in the spring time period. We've obviously got a few months to go for the end of that. Who knows, maybe Genji and Hanzo, they've been overlooked a little in recent events. Maybe there's going to be something coming for them soon. But beyond that, who knows what a great year for skins could mean. I'm looking forward to seeing what could come. Saving highlights is a feature that people have requested in Overwatch since the open beta, amongst other things. And on the boards, it was confirmed that this will be live apparently, as if plans go ahead as they are right now, before the end of summer, which is really, really awesome. So another cool example of feedback and ideas being built into the game. Now, do note, of course, that saving highlights is very different from a full-on replay system or spectator mode. It has been mentioned a few times by the dev team in posts how that is a very complicated piece of work to work on, and how any work on that or any such feature like that, if it was going to come, would be a lot further away. So good news on saving our highlights in-game without having to use recording utilities, but you're going to have to hold on a little bit longer, I think, for anything on the replay front. Thanks so much for tuning into this Overwatch news roundup. I hope you've discovered some new things and enjoyed bits of the wider news, lore and community you might not run into on your daily YouTube or news travels. Do throw a like or sub if you enjoyed, it really helps me out, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, do check out all of my regular Overwatch lore videos. These playlists and videos here are clickable on mobile, desktop or laptop. If you made it this far, do let me know who would win in a battle between Spider-Man and Obi-Wan Kenobi. I felt that we had to have a few little memes in here just to chill out from the rather heavy lore that was dropped earlier. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.